about paying off a Playboy model who claims a year-long affair with Trump. Now, the tape that we know about was recorded just before the election. It's now in the hands of the FBI. According to the president's current attorney, Rudy Giuliani, on the tape, Cohen and Trump discussed buying the rights to Playboy model Karen McDougal's story from the National Enquirer. First of all, Trump's team denied even knowing that the National Enquirer ever paid McDougal for her story. Trump's spokeswoman at the time, Hope Hicks, said of her being, quote, having knowledge of any of this, and she also said McDougal's claim of an affair with Mr. Trump was totally untrue. For his part, Trump has remained uncharacteristically silent about his relationship with McDougal.
Thank you all very much.
Secretary Schultz, is the president lying about the affairs?
President Karen McDougal telling the truth.
Mr. President, any comment on Mrs. McDougal?
Maybe he didn't want to lie directly to the cameras on that one, but McDougal did speak out to the camera at length.
There were real feelings between the two of us, not just myself, not just him. There was a real relationship there, and I kind of out of sight, out of mind with everything else. And, you know, deep inside, I did have a lot of guilt, but I still continued.
This all happened, of course, around the same time Cohen was paying off Stormy Daniels to keep quiet about her alleged one-night stand with Trump, a story Trump also appears to have lied about. Remember, Trump said this just a few months ago about that hush payment.
Did you know about the $130,000 payment for Stormy Daniels?
No.
Why did Michael Cohen make it if there was no truth around it?
Well, you have to ask Michael Cohen. Michael's my attorney, and you'll have to ask Michael Cohen.
Do you know where he got the money to make that payment?
No. Until Giuliani said the president did know because he repaid that payout.
Another call from a female.
Funnel through the law firm and the president repaid it.
Oh,
I didn't know he did.
Now, just to be clear, not only did the president repay it, the New York Times reports, citing two sources, that Trump knew about the repayment well before he lied about it on Air Force One. And tonight, CNN is learning that Michael Cohen has more tapes of Trump, and Evan Perez is out front. I mean, Evan, more tapes. That has got to be one of the last things Team Trump wants to hear.
Yeah, you would imagine so, Aaron. The idea that Michael Cohen had this habit of recording conversations that he had with prominent, with important people, that's what we're learning from Rudy Giuliani and from other sources who have been briefed on these recordings, which obviously are now in the hands of the investigators. The question there is, who are those people that are on those tapes? What kind of information is being discussed? Could that be something that could be embarrassing or could cause some legal problems for those people? It does appear that Michael Cohen's investigation, which is being done by the prosecutors in Manhattan, in the federal prosecutors in Manhattan, could end up widening because of it.
So, I mean, this obviously puts a point on Gavin. I mean, and what more do we know about the specific recording between Cohen and Trump about the Playboy model Karen McDougal?
Right, so this recording was made in early September of 2016. A month earlier is when Karen McDougal had signed an agreement with AMI, the publisher of the National Enquirer, for the rights to her story about her alleged affair with Donald Trump. Now, according to people we've talked to, this recording is under 2 minutes. That's what a source told our Karis Canal. So the question is, what exactly, what does this mean for the investigation? What does this mean for the president? People close to the president, including Rudy Giuliani, says this is no big deal. This is actually not going to be a problem for the president. But others who we've talked to say that there is an issue here for the president and for his legal team to take care of. Obviously, we know that Michael Cohen's been sending signals that he wants to cooperate with prosecutors and the FBI. We just heard just today that he met with Al Sharpton, the Reverend Al Sharpton, to talk, I guess, have a 1.5 hour discussion. Apparently, that's another sign that Michael Cohen is sending out there that he wants to try to make a deal, perhaps, with prosecutors. We do not know at this point, Aaron, whether prosecutors want him to provide any information or whether they're going to try to charge him.
All right, thank you very much, Evan Perez. I mean, in a sense, it sort of seems like by putting this stuff out there, whoever is, if you want to do a deal with them, you can do it without paying this in the media. But that's a big question. Out front now, Carrie Cordero, from counsel to the U.S. Assistant Attorney General for National Security, Harry Sandick, former Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, where, of course, the investigation to Cohen is in full swing, and April Ryan, White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Networks. Harry, you're with me. According to Trump's own lawyer, this is not being okay, so they are admitting, obviously because they think we're all going to find out at some point, we might as well get it out there, right? But how damaging could this tape be, this one about Karen McDougal? It's short, but we know it's about something that they said, and Trump said the president knew nothing about, and obviously he did.
Yeah, with every inconsistency, it would become harder for Trump and his team to defend against any claim. On the substance, it sounds like this is some sort of a reimbursement that's being made, that essentially AMI was an intermediary making a payment to McDougal with the knowledge, perhaps, that Trump and his team were going to then reimburse them in order to help build this story, whereas McDougal thought that she was selling the story in order maybe to become famous or profit off of her prior connection.
So the National Enquirer Company, which of course is owned by Frank Thomas, they really were working together, is what this appears to show, which not a surprise, but discussing it as opposed to just implicitly doing it. I mean, Carrie, Team Trump is trying to say, look, this is not a legal problem for the president, but that sounds like spin.
The extension might be a legal problem for the president. It's whether or not this could potentially be interpreted, the payment could be interpreted as being some kind of campaign finance violation, whether or not it's a reporting violation or whether the payment is a payoff that could be construed as some kind of loan to the campaign. And from that perspective, the timing of these alleged payoffs, I think, makes sense, because if it was, the closer you get to the election, so if this took place in September of 2016, the closer we get to the election, the closer it starts to look like it really was intended to affect the election. And then, of course, the content of that phone call is what matters. In the phone call, that's now recorded and in government possession, if the phone call between Donald Trump and Michael Cohen reveals that there was a payment being made for a particular purpose, that would be very relevant.
I mean, April, when he was told about the tape, according to a source, the president said, quote, "I can't believe Michael would do this to me." But given some of the reporting showing what the president really thought about Cohen, that Cohen was aware of, it's pretty negative. And even if the president, looked yesterday, he tweeted something nasty about the media, as he is off to do. Michael Cohen took the other side, trolling the president on Twitter, saying freedom of the press is not just important to democracy, it is democracy, right? So that's what he responds to Walter Cronkite, in response to Trump calling the fake news or the enemy of the people. The Wall Street Journal reported recently, April, that in 2009, Cohen's working for Trump, right? Trump tried to push him out and cut his salary in half, okay? Now, when someone cuts your salary in half, you know what they think of you, which means Cohen knew when Trump thought of him since at least 2009. Why is Trump surprised that Cohen was keeping tapes of anything that could make it look bad?
Known to drink and do drugs.
I don't know why the president is acting surprised. He's thrown Michael Cohen under the bus recently, and even back then, cutting the salary was, sometimes people have a tendency to still want to gravitate to power and stay around power. But, even though he may have cut his salary, he was still in the inner circle, introducing him to people and things of that nature. But going back to something that you asked earlier, about the president being in trouble, I talked to Maryland Congressman Elijah Cummings today, the Democratic leader of Government Oversight and Reform Committee, and he said that the FBI has more tapes than we know and that Trump knows, and the president feels like he's backed up against the wall. And not only that, he's expecting more indictments. And what this president is doing, and like he's saying about Michael Cohen right now, I'm surprised at Michael Cohen, what he is doing now is throwing a bunch of wet spaghetti noodles up against the wall to see what sticks. Michael Cohen is done, he's through, he's trying to cooperate and give the tapes, what have you. This president is in trouble, and he needs to look at it himself.
Harry, according to Julian, the president's friend, Trump did not know he was being recorded. Now, I can't believe that to be true. I remember a conversation I had with Trump in which he said, because we were talking about the Bank of China, International Bank of China being in Trump Tower, and I said, don't you think they must be recording all your phone calls? And he said, I'm in real estate in New York. I have assumed someone's recording what we call it. This is what he said, okay? So do you really believe him that he didn't have any idea, or do you think he just trusted Cohen so blindly?
I think he trusted Cohen, and I think also lawyers don't generally tape record their clients. I've never heard of it. It's a very unusual thing to do.
Is it unethical?
It may well be unethical because you have a duty of loyalty to your client. You're not supposed to be gathering tapes of your client potentially to use to protect yourself or to hold him hostage or something. I don't want to paint the president as a victim here. It doesn't sound like that. But on the question of should you expect that your lawyer is tape recording you, no, you really shouldn't expect that.
I mean, Carrie, do you think it's unethical? I mean, forget what we learn about Trump and what people think about Trump and what he did and why. Forget that, right? Is it wrong and unethical that Cohen did it?
Well, I don't know any reputable lawyers that would do that, and I think probably the New York Bar has some guidance regarding the duties of lawyers and whether or not it's ethical for them to report clients. It's not normal practice. I think the bar, not that bar rules are something that Michael Cohen, that's at the top of his list of concerns, but I wouldn't be surprised if the New York Bar looked at it. It's not normal practice. It might be one of the reasons, I think, perhaps, that Donald Trump relied on Michael Cohen so much for a variety of dealings was because he thought that using a lawyer, sometimes people use a lawyer because then they feel like it's more protected.
Right. It's like he does think people are recording. Donald Trump knows full well in New York State only one person has to want to record, and he probably recorded other people, right? But Cohen would have been the person maybe that was able to pull the wool over his eyes. I mean, April, the other thing, though, is that Giuliani's out seeing later, right, talking about the existence of this tape. The tape may prove a lie, but as Carrie points out, and Harry points out, it's unclear legally what it might eventually mean. Is it possible the president would rather this be out than, let's say, the summit with Putin continually being discussed? I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, when it comes to Putin, that's a very deep, according to Cummings again, that's a very deep national security issue that he's very concerned about. And of course they want to take that off the table. But Rudy Giuliani is very clearly trying to put something else on the table to distract. But at the same time, he wants this to play out in the court of public opinion. This may not play out as well as they think. It's too much going on. Look at it, just the last couple of weeks, you've had zero tolerance, separation of children from their parents, whether it's from Mexico or wherever, zero tolerance. Then you had the Putin press conference that was hell on wheels for some, and now this. It's just too much, too fast. The Republicans are turning their nose and putting their head down, but it's in your face. It's a lot going on, and it's all negative for this president.
Up front tonight, a secret Trump tape. Tonight, I can tell you, there is a tape. The president's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, recording a conversation he had with Donald Trump about paying off a Playboy model who claims a year-long affair with Trump. Now, the tape that we know about was recorded just before the election. It's now in the hands of the FBI. According to the president's current attorney, Rudy Giuliani, on the tape, Cohen and Trump discussed buying the rights to Playboy model Karen McDougal's story from the National Enquirer's parent company. And, well, here's the thing. The tape shows that Team Trump lied. First of all, Trump's team denied even knowing that the National Enquirer ever paid McDougal for her story. Trump's spokeswoman at the time, Hope Hicks, said of that payment, quote, "We have no knowledge of any of this," and she also said McDougal's claim of an affair with Mr. Trump was totally untrue. For his part, Trump has remained uncharacteristically silent about his relationship with McDougal.
Thank you all very much.
Mr. President, any comment on Mr. McDougal?
Maybe he didn't want to lie directly to the cameras on that one, but McDougal did speak out to the camera at length.
There were real feelings between the two of us, not just myself, not just him. There was a real relationship there, and I kind of out of sight, out of mind with everything else. And, deep inside, I did have a lot of guilt, but I still continued.
This all happened, of course, around the same time Cohen was paying off Stormy Daniels to keep quiet about her alleged one-night stand with Trump. a story Trump also appears to have lied about. Remember, Trump said this just a few months ago about that hush payment.
No. What else? Well, you have to ask Michael Cohen. Michael's an attorney, and you'll have to ask Michael Cohen.
No. Until Giuliani said the president did know because he repaid that payoff.
Funneled through the law firm, and the president repaid it. Oh, I didn't know he did. Yeah.
Now, just to be clear, not only did the president repay it, the New York Times reports, citing two sources, that Trump knew about the repayment well before he lied about it on Air Force One. And tonight, CNN is learning that Michael Cohen has more tapes of Trump, and Evan Perez is out front. I mean, Evan, more tapes. That has got to be one of the last things Team Trump wants to do.
17 and 19 out here.
Yeah, you would imagine so, Aaron. The idea that Michael Cohen had this habit of recording conversations that he had with prominent, with important people, that's what we're learning from Rudy Giuliani and from other sources who have been briefed on these recordings, which obviously are now in the hands of the investigators. The question there is, who are those people that are on those tapes? What kind of information was being discussed? Could that be something that could be embarrassing or could cause some legal problems for those people? It does appear that Michael Cohen's investigation, which is being done by the prosecutors in Manhattan, in the federal prosecutors in Manhattan, could end up widening because of this.
So, I mean, this is obviously a crucial point you make, Evan. I mean, and what more do we know about this specific recording between Cohen and Trump about the Playboy model?
Right, so this recording was made in early September of 2016. A month earlier is when Karen McDougal had signed an agreement with AMI, the publisher of the National Enquirer, for the rights to her story about her alleged affair with Donald Trump. Now, according to people we've talked to, this recording is under 2 minutes. That's what a source told our Paris Canal. So the question is, what exactly, what does this mean for the investigation? What does this mean for the president? People close to the president, including Rudy Giuliani, says this is no big deal. This is actually not going to be a problem for the president. But others who we've talked to say that there is an issue here for the president and for his legal team to take care of. Obviously, we know that Michael Cohen's been sending signals that he wants to cooperate with prosecutors and the FBI. We just heard just today that he met with Al Sharpton, the Reverend Al Sharpton, to talk, I guess, have a 1.5 hour discussion. Apparently, that's another sign that Michael Cohen is sending out there that he wants to try to make a deal perhaps with prosecutors. We do not know at this point, Aaron, whether prosecutors want him to provide any information or whether they're going to try to charge him.
All right, thank you very much, Evan Perez. I mean, in a sense, it sort of seems like they're putting this stuff out there, whoever is. If you want to do a deal with them, you could do it without putting this in the media. But that's a big question. I'll point now Perry Cordero, former counsel to the U.S. Assistant Attorney General for National Security, Harry Sandick, former Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, where, of course, the investigation to Cohen is in full swing, and April Ryan, White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Networks. Harry, you're with me. According to Trump's own lawyer, this is not the only report. Okay, so they're admitting, obviously, because they think we're all going to find out at some point. We might as well get it out there, right? But how damaging could this tape be, this one about Karen McDougal? It's short, but we know it's about something that they said, when Trump said the president knew nothing about, and obviously he did.
Yeah, with every inconsistency, it would become harder for Trump and his team to defend against any claim. On the substance, it sounds like this is some sort of a reimbursement that's being made, that essentially AMI was an intermediary making a payment to McDougal with the knowledge, perhaps, that Trump and his team were going to then reimburse them in order to help build this story, whereas McDougal thought that she was selling the story in order maybe to become famous or profit off her prior connection to Trump.
So the National Enquirer parent company, which of course is owned by a friend of Trump's,
exactly.
They really were working together, is what this appears to show, which, not a surprise. But discussing it as opposed to just implicitly doing it. I mean, Carrie, Team Trump is trying to say, look, this is not a legal problem for the president, but that sounds like spin.
To the extent there might be a legal problem for the president, it's whether or not this could potentially be interpreted, the payment could be interpreted as being some kind of campaign finance violation, whether or not it's a reporting violation, or whether the payment is a payoff that can be construed as some kind of loan to the campaign. And from that perspective, the timing of these alleged payoffs, I think, makes sense, because if it was, the closer you get to the election, so if this took place in September of 2016, the closer we get to the election, the closer it starts to look like it really was intended to affect the election. And then, of course, the content of that phone call is what matters. In the phone call that's now recorded and in government possession, if the phone call between Donald Trump and Michael Cohen reveals that there was a payment being made for a particular purpose, that would be very relevant.
I mean, April, you know, when he was told about the tape, according to a source, the president said, quote, "I can't believe Michael would do this to me." But given some of the, there's been reporting showing what the president really thought about Cohen, that Cohen was aware of, that's pretty negative. And even if the president, you know, looked yesterday, he tweeted something nasty about the media, as he is off to do. Michael Cohen took the other side, trolling the president on Twitter, saying freedom of the press is not just important to democracy, it is democracy, right? So that's what he responds to Walter Cronkite, quote, in response to Trump calling fake news the enemy of the people. The Wall Street Journal reported recently, April, that in 2009, Cohen's working for Trump, right? Trump tried to push him out and cut his salary in half, okay? Now, when someone cuts your salary in half, you know what they think of you, which means Cohen knew what Trump thought of him since at least 2009. Why is Trump surprised that Cohen was keeping tapes of anything that could make him look bad?
You know, I don't know why the president is acting surprised. He was thrown Michael Cohen under the bus recently, and even back then, cutting the salary was, you know, sometimes people have a tendency to still want to gravitate to power and stay around power. But, you know, even though he may have cut his salary, he was still in the inner circle, introducing him to people and things of that nature. But going back to something that you asked earlier, you know, about the president being in trouble, I talked to Maryland Congressman Elijah Cummings today, the leader, Democratic leader of Government Oversight and Reform Committee, and he said that the FBI has more tapes than we know and that Trump knows, and the president feels like he's backed up against the wall. And not only that, he's expecting more indictments. And what this president is doing, and like he's saying about Michael Cohen right now, you know, oh, I'm surprised at Michael Cohen. What he is doing now is throwing a bunch of wet spaghetti noodles up against the wall to see what sticks. Michael Cohen is done. He's through. He's trying to cooperate and give the tapes, what have you. This president is in trouble, and he needs to look at it himself.
So, Harry, according to Giuliani, the president's client, Trump did not know he was being reported. No, I can't believe that to be true. I remember a conversation I had with Trump in which he said, because we were talking about the Bank of China, International Bank of China being in Trump Tower, and I said, don't you think they must be recording all your phone calls? And he said, I'm in real estate in New York, and I have assumed someone is recording every call I ever make. This is what he said, okay? So do we really believe him that he didn't have any idea? Or do you think he just trusted Cohen so blindly?
I think he trusted Cohen, and I think also lawyers don't generally tape record their clients. I've never heard of it. It's a very unusual thing to do.
Is it unethical?
It may well be unethical because you have a duty of loyalty to your client. You're not supposed to be gathering tapes of your client potentially to use to protect yourself or to hold him hostage or something. I don't want to paint the president as a victim here. It doesn't sound like that. But on the question of should you expect that your lawyer is tape recording you, no, you really shouldn't.
I mean, Carrie, do you think it's unethical? I mean, forget what we learn about Trump and what people think about Trump and what he did and why. Forget that, right? Is it wrong and unethical that Cohen did it?
Well, I don't know any reputable lawyers that would do that, and I think probably the New York Bar has some guidance regarding the duties of lawyers and whether or not it's ethical for them to report clients. It's not normal practice. I think the bar, not that bar rules are something that Michael Cohen, that's at the top of his list of concerns, but I wouldn't be surprised if the New York Bar looked at it. It's not normal practice of, it might be one of the reasons, I think perhaps that Donald Trump relied on Michael Cohen so much for a variety of dealing was because he thought that using a lawyer, sometimes people use a lawyer because then they feel like it's more protected.
Right, it's like he does think people are recording. Donald Trump knows full well in New York State only one person is on record, and you probably 4 other people, right? The phone was the person who did that, was able to pull the wool over his eyes. I mean, April, the other thing, though, is that Giuliani's out seeming eager, right, to talk about the existence of this tape. Look, the tape may prove a lie, but as Carrie points out, and Harry points out, it's unclear legally what it might eventually mean. Is it possible the president would rather this be out than, let's say, the summit with Putin continually being discussed?
Well, you know, yeah, when it comes to Putin, that's a very deep, according to Cummings again, that's a very deep national security issue that he's very concerned about. And of course they want to take that off the table. But Rudy Giuliani is very clearly trying to put something else on the table to distract. But at the same time, he wants this to play out in the court of public opinion. This may not play out as well as they think. It's too much going on. Look at it. Just the last couple of weeks, you've had zero tolerance. You know, separation of children from their parents, whether it's from Mexico or wherever. Zero tolerance. Then you had the Putin press conference that was hell on wheels for some. And now this. It's just too much, too fast. And Republicans are turning their nose and putting their head down, but it's in your face. It's a lot going on, and it's all negative for this president.
Out front tonight, a secret Trump tape. Tonight, I can tell you, there is a tape. The president's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, recorded a conversation he had with Donald Trump about paying off a Playboy model who claims a year-long affair with Trump. Now, the tape that we know about was recorded just before the election. It's now in the hands of the RTA. According to the president's current attorney, Rudy Giuliani, in the tape, Cohen and Trump discussed buying the rights to Playboy model Karen McDougal's story from the National Enquirer's parent company. And, well, here's the thing. The tape shows that Team Trump lied. First of all, Trump's team denied even knowing that the National Enquirer ever paid McDougal for her story. Trump's spokeswoman at the time, Hope Hicks, said of that payment, quote, "We have no knowledge of any of this," and she also said McDougal's claim of an affair with Mr. Trump was totally untrue. For his part, Trump has remained uncharacteristically silent about his relationship with McDougal.
Thank you all very much. Secretary Schultz.
Mr. President, are you lying about the affair? Mr. President, any comment on McDougal?
Maybe I didn't want to lie directly to the cameras on that one, but McDougal did speak out to the camera at length.
There were real feelings between the two of us, not just myself, not just him. There was a real relationship there, and I kind of out of sight, out of mind with everything else. And, you know, deep inside, I did have a lot of guilt, but I still continue.
This all happened, of course, around the same time Cohen was paying off Stormy Daniels to keep quiet about her alleged one-night stand with Trump. A story Trump also appears to have lied about. Remember, Trump said this just a few months ago about that hush payment.
Did you know about the $130,000 for Stormy Daniels?
No.
Why did Michael Cohen make this if there was no truth?
Well, you have to ask Michael Cohen. Michael's my attorney, and you'll have to ask Michael
No. Until Giuliani said the president did know because he repaid that pay.
Someone threw it over him, and the president repaid it. Oh, I didn't know he did. Yep.
Now, just to be clear, not only did the president repay it, the New York Times reports, citing two sources, that Trump knew about the repayment well before he lied about it on Air Force One. And tonight, CNN is learning that Michael Cohen has more tapes of Trump, and Evan Perez is out front. I mean, Evan, more tapes. That has got to be one of the last things Team Trump wants to hear.
Yeah, you would imagine so, Aaron. The idea that Michael Cohen had this habit of recording conversations that he had with prominent, with important people, that's what we're learning from Rudy Giuliani and from other sources who have been briefed on these recordings. which obviously are now in the hands of the investigators. The question there is, who are those people that are on those tapes? What kind of information is being discussed? Could that be something that could be embarrassing or could cause some legal problems for those people? It does appear that Michael Cohen's investigation, which is being done by the prosecutors in Manhattan, federal prosecutors in Manhattan, could end up widening because of this.
So, I mean, this is obviously a crucial point you make, Evan. I mean, and what more do we know about this specific recording between Cohen and Trump about the Playboy model Karen McDougal?
Right. So this recording was made in early September of 2016. A month earlier is when Karen McDougal had signed an agreement with AMI, the publisher of the National Enquirer, for the rights to her story about her alleged affair with Donald Trump. Now, according to people we've talked to, this recording rather, is under 2 minutes. That's what a source told our Paris Canal. So the question is, what exactly, what does this mean for the investigation? What does this mean for the president? People close to the president, including Rudy Giuliani, says this is no big deal. This is actually not going to be a problem for the president. But others who we've talked to say that there is an issue here for the president and for his legal team to take care of. Obviously, we know that Michael Cohen's been sending signals that he wants to cooperate with prosecutors and the FBI. We just heard just today that he met with Al Sharpton, the Reverend Al Sharpton, to talk, I guess, have a 1.5 hour discussion. Apparently, that's another sign that Michael Cohen is sending out there that he wants to try to make a deal perhaps with prosecutors. We do not know at this point, Aaron, whether prosecutors want him to provide any information or whether they're going to try to charge him.
All right, thank you very much, Evan Perez. I mean, in a sense, it sort of seems like by putting this stuff out there, whoever is, if you want to do a deal with him, you could do it without playing this in the media. But that's a big question. Out front now, Perry Cordero, former counsel to the U.S. Assistant Attorney General for National Security. Harry Sandick, former Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, where, of course, the investigation to Cohen is in full swing. And April Ryan, White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Networks. Harry, you're with me. According to Trump's own lawyer, this is not the only reporter. Okay, so they're admitting, obviously, because they think we're all going to find out at some point. We might as well get it out there, right?
Negative 29, he's shown to be an active gang member of Texas
It's short, but we know it's about something that they said, Trump said the president knew
Junior shown to be negative 29, ID card only.
Yeah, with every inconsistency, it would become harder for Trump and his team to defend against any claim. On the substance, it sounds like this is some sort of a reimbursement that's being made, that essentially AMI was an intermediary making a payment to McDougal with the knowledge that Trump and his team were going to then reimburse them in order to help build this story. Whereas McDougal thought that she was selling the story in order maybe to become famous or a profit off of this
the National Enquirer kind of company, which of course is owned by Frank Trump's, they really were working together. This appears to show, which not a surprise, but discussing it as opposed to just implicitly doing it. I mean, Kerry, Team Trump is trying to say, look, this is not a legal problem for the president, but that sounds like spin.
I think to the extent there might be a legal problem for the president, it's whether or not this could potentially be interpreted, the payment could be interpreted as being some kind of campaign finance violation, whether or not it's a reporting violation or whether the payment is a payoff that could be construed as some kind of loan to the campaign. And from that perspective, the timing of these alleged payoffs, I think, makes sense because if it was the closer you get to the election, so this took place in September of 2016, the closer we get to the election, the closer it starts to look like it really was intended to affect the election. And then, of course, the content of that phone call is what matters. In the phone call, which is now recorded and in government possession, if a phone call between Donald Trump and Michael Cohen revealed that there was a payment being made for a particular purpose, that would be very relevant.
April, when he was told about the tape, according to a source, the president said, quote, I can't believe Michael would do this to me. But given some of the reporting pressure that the president was talking about Cohen, that Cohen was aware of, that's pretty negative, and even if the president You know, yesterday he tweeted something nasty about the media, as he was off to do. Michael Cohen took the other side, trolling the president on Twitter, saying freedom of the press is not just important to democracy, it is democracy, right? So that's what he responds to Walter Cronkite, quote, in response to Trump calling fake news of the people. The Wall Street Journal reported recently, April, in 2009, Cohen's working for Trump, right? Trump had to push him out to cut his salary, okay? Now, when someone cuts your salary in half, you know what they think of you, which means Cohen knew what Trump thought of him since at least 2009. Why is Trump surprised that Cohen was keeping tapes of anything that could make him look bad?
You know, I don't know why the president is acting surprised. He has thrown Michael Cohen under the bus recently, and even back then, cutting the salary. But, you know, sometimes people have a tendency to still want to gravitate to power and stay around power. But, you know, even though he may have cut his salary, he was still in the inner circle, introducing him to people and things of that nature. But going back to something that you asked earlier, you know, about the president being in trouble, I talked to Maryland Congressman Elijah Cummings today, the leader, Democratic leader of Government Oversight and Reform Committee, and he said that the FBI has more tapes than we know and that Trump knows. And the president feels like he's backed up against the wall. And not only that, he's expecting more indictments. And what this president is doing, and like he's saying about Michael Cohen right now, you know, oh, I'm surprised Michael Cohen. What he is doing now is throwing a bunch of wet spaghetti noodles up against the wall to see what sticks. Michael Cohen is done. He's through. He's trying to cooperate and give the tapes, what have you. This president is in trouble, and he needs to look at it himself.
So, Harry, according to Giuliani, the president's current attorney, Trump did not know he was being recorded. Now, I can't believe that to be true. I remember a conversation I had with Trump in which he said, because we were talking about the Bank of China, National Bank of China being in Trump Tower, and I said, don't you think they must be recording my phone calls? And he said, I'm in real estate in New York. I have assumed someone's recording my call. This is what he said, okay? So do you really believe him that he didn't have any idea, or do you think he just trusted Cohen and said, damn it?
I think he trusted Cohen, and I think also lawyers don't generally tape record their clients. I've never heard of it. It's a very unusual thing to do.
Is it unethical?
It may well be unethical because you have a duty of loyalty to your client. You're not supposed to be gathering tapes of your client potentially to use to protect yourself or to hold him hostage or something. I don't want to paint the president as a victim here. It doesn't sound like that. But on the question of should you expect that your lawyers will record of you, no, you really shouldn't.
I mean, Carrie, do you think it's unethical? I mean, forget what we learn about Trump and what people think about Trump and what he did and forget that, right? Is it wrong and unethical that Cohen did it?
Well, I don't know any reputable lawyers that would do that, and I think probably the New York Bar has some guidance regarding the duties of lawyers and whether or not it's ethical for them to record clients. It's not normal practice. I think the bar, not that bar rules are something that Michael Cohen, that's at the top of his list of concerns, but I wouldn't be surprised if the New York Bar looked at it. It's not normal practice. It might be one of the reasons, I think, perhaps that Donald Trump relied on Michael Cohen so much for a variety of dealings was because he thought that using a lawyer, sometimes people use a lawyer because then they feel like it's more protected.
Right. It's like he does think people are recording. Donald Trump knows full well in New York State only one person is to want to record. He probably recorded other people, right? But Cohen would have been the person maybe that was able to pull the wool over his eyes. I mean, April, the other thing, though, is that Giuliani's out seeming eager, right, to talk about the existence of this tape. Look, the tape may prove a lie, but as Carrie points out and Harry points out, it's unclear legally what it might eventually mean. Is it possible the president would rather this be out than, let's say, the summit with Putin continually being discussed? I'm sorry.
Well, you know, when it comes to Putin, that's a very deep, according to Cummings again, that's a very deep national security issue that he's very concerned about. And of course they want to take that off the table. But Rudy Giuliani is very clearly trying to put something else on the table to distract. But at the same time, he wants this to play out in the court of public opinion. This may not play out as well as they think. It's too much going on. Look at it, just the last couple of weeks, we've had zero tolerance. separation of children from their parents, whether it's from Mexico or wherever. Zero tolerance. Then you had the Putin press conference that was hell on wheels for some. And now this. It's just too much, too fast. The Republicans are turning their nose and putting their head down, but it's in your face. It's a lot going on, and it's all negative for this president.
Out front tonight, a secret Trump tape. Tonight, I can tell you, there is a tape. The president's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, recording a conversation he had with. There is a tape. The president's
live at McDonald's on 15 and Tillman. This is your job. Now remember, I'm putting this up. What I'm saying is that I was waiting in the front. I was waiting in the front. You know she's but anyway, look. You took the order behind me. I was like, oh, and then you said, no, you need to relax. So, and then you said, no, that's what you said first. Alright? So look, now I don't flip. Look, yo, you see that, right?
Mr. President, any comment on this?
Yo, I know this is going on Facebook Live. This is going on Facebook Live. I'm recording. I'm recording. I'm gonna go sing. I'm not gonna be disrespectful. Listen. No, I'm not. Listen, it's totally legal. Yes, it is. You're going to tell me I've been through this already. You're going to be famous if you close the window. All right, look. Right here.
Trump also the biggest to lie about. Remember Trump said just a few months ago about
we made the news. Yo, listen, this is above the rest of the news. Live at McDonald's. The real is the news. Yo, y'all got to like, share. Y'all got to share it. On 15th, yo, they closed the window on me. She don't want to take my order enough. Listen, y'all got to share this. We on 15th and Tillman. Live on 15th and Tillman. Y'all know above the rest of the news. Yes, I would like to order. No, you alright. But the manager, what's your name? What's the manager's name? Corpus Christi, what? I'm gonna wait for you.
Now, just to be clear, not only did the president move it clear, the New York Times report, citing two sources, that Trump knew about the impeachment well before he lied about it. Tonight's hearings learning that Michael Cohen has more tips for Trump.
I'm not trying to make you upset. I would apologize to you, but you brought that on me. But I got you on film. I got you on your manager. I would never disrespect, but you did good.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And the idea that Michael Cohen had this recording conversation that he had with Parliament,
it's cool.
Rudy Giuliani, and some other sources
I'm sorry, I'm out.
Recording, which obviously are now in the hands of the investigators. The question there is who are those people that are on this tape? What kind of information is being discussed? Could that be something that could be embarrassing?
Yo, Eli catch it. Facebook Live is about to go up.
Here that Michael Cohen's investigation, which is being done by the prosecutors in Manhattan, and federal prosecutors in Manhattan, could end up widening because of that.
And what more do we know about this specific recording between Cohen and Trump about the pro bono campaign?
Right, so this recording was made in early September of 2016. A month earlier is when Karen McDougal had signed an agreement with AMI, the publisher of the National Enquirer, for the right to her story about her alleged affair with Donald Trump. According to the talk to this meeting, this recording rather, is under 2 minutes. That's what a source told our Times now. So the question is, what exactly, what does this mean to the investigation? What does this mean to the president? People point to the president, including the leaders of the United States. This is no big deal. This is actually not going to be a problem for the president, but others who we've talked to say that there is an issue here for the president and for his legal team to take care of. Obviously, we know that Michael Cohen's been sending signals that he wants to cooperate with prosecutors and the FBI. We just heard this today that he met with Al Sharpton, Reverend Al Sharpton, to talk, just have a 1.5 hour discussion. Apparently, that's another sign that Michael Cohen is sending out there that he wants to try to make a deal perhaps with prosecutors. We do not know at this point whether prosecutors want him to provide an investigation or whether they're going to send him out.
Thank you very much, Evan Perez. Whoever is, if you want to do a deal with him, that's a good question. Alfredo Cordero, former counsel to the U.S. Assistant Attorney General for National Security, Harry Sandick, former Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, of course, for the investigation to felonies and false media. And April Ryan, White House correspondent for American Media Networks. Harry, you're with me. According to Trump's own lawyer, this is not okay, so they are admitting, obviously because they think we're all going to find out at some point, you might as well get it out there, right? And this statement is not about the conclusion. It's short. We know it's about something. Trump said the president didn't out.
With every inconsistency, it would become harder for Trump and his team to defend against any claim. On the substance, it sounds like this is some sort of a reimbursement that's being made, but essentially EMI was an intermediary making a payment to McDougal with the knowledge, perhaps, that Trump and his team were going to then reimburse them in order to help kill this story. Whereas McDougal thought that he was selling the story
they really were working together, as this appears to show, which is not a surprise, but discussing it as opposed to just because we're doing it. I mean, Harry, Team Trump is trying to say, look, this is not a real problem. That's an experiment.
It's whether or not this could potentially be interpreted, the payment could be interpreted as being some kind of campaign finance violation, whether or not it's a reporting violation or whether the payment is a payoff that comes through just some kind of loan to the campaign. And from that perspective, the timing of these alleged payoffs, I think, makes sense because if it was the closer you get to the election, so this took place in September 2015, the closer we get to the election, the closer it starts to look like it really was intended to affect the election. And then, of course, the content of that phone call is what matters. In the phone call booth that's now recorded and in government possession, if the phone call between Donald Trump and Michael Cohen reveals that there was a payment being made for a particular purpose, that would be very helpful.
April, when I was talking about the tape, according to a source, the president said, I can't believe Michael would do this to me. Given some of the reporting, I showed that the president really thought about the Cohen was aware of, it's pretty negative, and even if the president yesterday tweeted something nasty about the yes, he was off to do Michael Cohen, took the other side. The president saying freedom of the press is not just important to democracy, it is democracy, right? So that's what he was wanting to go to conflict.
Nobody can tell us when to put our troops aside.
The Wall Street Journal reported recently, April, that in 2009, when he was working for Trump, right? Trump had a portion out to cut his salary. Okay? Now, when he cut your salary in half, since at least 2009, why is Trump surprised? He's putting his tapes.
I don't know why the president is acting surprised. He's thrown Michael Cohen under the bus recently, and even back then, people have a tendency to still want to gravitate to power. But even though he may cut his salary, he was still in the inner circle introducing the people. But going back to
Go to a mental hospital.
Earlier, you know, about the president being in trouble. I talked about this
Go to a mental hospital.
The leader, Democratic leader of government oversight and reform committee, and he said that the FBI has more to show than we know. The president feels like he's back up against the wall. Not only that, he's expecting more indictments. And what this president is doing, and like he's saying about Michael Cohen right now, you know, oh, I'm surprised at that. What he's doing now is throwing a bunch of wet spaghetti noodles against the wall to see what sticks.
What up, Insta Live? We got another police officer after I showed her my key to walked up here and tried to kick me out of my own goddamn pool. I paid $1,600 in rent. What's your badge number? That's my question. And Candace, yeah, tell her she looks stupid. Now tell her she looks dumb. Just tell her she looks dumb because I told her I showed her my keys. She didn't have to come over here. I'm over here. Yeah, but I told her that. But listen, hold up. First of all, the question that you asked me was, do I live here? I said yes. Then you asked me my address was. I showed you my keys. What more of a conversation?
I'm in real estate.
Am I, like, seriously, what more of a conversation do I need to?
This is what you said.
I'm saying. I did answer her question. I did. I told her. Why do I need to give this lady who I don't know my address? I don't know her. I don't know if that's a fake ass badge. I don't usually. I'm saying it seriously. Just yes. She just came over here and alone time to my.
Is it unethical?
Yeah.
It may well be unethical because you have a duty of loyalty.
I showed her my keys. What else did I have to do? What else did I have to do? She didn't walk over there. She didn't walk. Were you gonna walk over there? No, you haven't. You ain't been over here in the last hour.
Victim here. It doesn't sound like that. But on the question, should you expect that the lawyers escorting you? No, you would think should.
Oh, I was gonna walk over there. I thought that was closed, so I was gonna get it tomorrow. But like, I don't mean, this is like, I just don't feel like I'm welcome. You know what I mean? Like, she just walked over here and just literally looked right at me, like, yo, he's not. You know what I mean? I just showed her my key. I literally showed her my key. At that point, I was like, there's no more conversation that we need. And I wasn't here. It was probably 30 minutes since I was here. I've been sitting out here since. Honestly, I don't care when you talk. Why do I have to leave my pool that I've been? She don't live here. You live here?
Not that bar rules are something that
But for what? But for why am I leaving? I literally have been sitting here not doing shit. Literally just got over here.
It might be one of the reasons.
I'm just saying. I showed her my key. I haven't showed her. I haven't. I just left the gym. I literally just left the gym and sat over. Okay. All right. I'm just saying. That's cool. Why can't I show you my key and say, and that's it? Why can't I show you? But if I had my key, I could have made up a number and she would have said what?
Was able to pull the wool over his eyes. I mean, April, the other thing, though, is that Giuliani's out saying leader talking about the existence of his tape. Did they prove a lie?
Because I didn't leave my bag.
It's possible President would rather this be out than let us say some of the good that they're continuing to discuss. Sorry.
You called the police. And then that department down here, right? So let them take down. Go ahead and make it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Exactly. Exactly. For what?
But at the same time,
I wait for the police, like you told me. You shouldn't have called the police. Or what? I wait for the police.
Look at it, just the last couple of years. Zero tolerance. Children from the Medicare zero tolerance. Then you have the press conference that was coming and now it's just too much, too fast.
So no crime happened. So why are you calling the police? It made no sense.